Hey guys, welcome back to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath Holland, and this is my look back at the new movies that I saw that were released during 2023. There's a lot of movies on this list, actually. You know, in the past, I've been struggling with finding even 5 that I really connected with or that I had seen because I'm so history focused. You know, my focus, to be clear, my focus is movie history, not necessarily movie now. 2023 alone, I have recorded 6 audio commentaries for releases that will be hitting the market or have already hit the market, right? So digging into the history of movies is kind of my bread and butter, but I have saw a lot of new movies this year, a lot of 2023 movies. So there's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen. There's a lot of stuff I may never see. This is what I did see and remembered to put on this list, I guess is the important part. So they're in no particular order. For doing this, I'm busting out the Review-Palooza format again. This is something I used to do, just a long form video where I just talk about stuff that I watched and review it. I haven't done it in a few years, so it's good to be doing it again. Let's no particular order, but I will save maybe the most controversial ones or the most interesting ones or maybe even some of my favorites for towards the end of the video. Let's kick it off with the Super Mario Brothers movie. Or is it Super Mario Bros? How are we supposed to talk about this? I saw it. I thought it was fine. I don't think it's for me. I think it's for the younger ones. Now, of course, I am the original Super Mario generation. I was the kid who got the Nintendo Entertainment System with Super Mario Brothers packed into it. So, I do get the nostalgia for it. There was some jokes there, you know, having grown up with the live action series, with there was the animated series with the live action ends with Captain Lou, and I love Mario. I didn't love the movie. I thought it was fine. It's a product, you know. I know all this stuff is products, but I think what we're seeing now more than ever is these big IP tentpole movies. They're just candy confections, and that's what Super Mario Brothers was for me. It was just a piece of candy. Tasted all right while I had it, and then when it was gone, I haven't thought twice about it. I'll probably never watch it again. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This is the sequel to Into the Spiderverse, which I loved. Across the Spiderverse is a review here on the channel for it. I think it is the most visually stunning movie I've ever seen. Ever. Huge praise. I know that's a big statement. I think it's the most visually stunning movie I've ever seen. Here's the thing. I'm a comic book guy. I've been reading comics for well over 30 years now. I started reading comics in the 80s, right? Comic books give me a feeling that no movie really can because it's a different format. It's different from cartoons. It's different from video games. Comics are, the way they're set up, you know, you turn a page, everything hits you all at one time. You've got 2 pages. When you turn that page, you're looking at 2 new pages. Is it a splash? Is it a big, you know, do those 2 pages connect to form one image? Or is it like 9 images on one page and then 4 images on another page? Your brain is taking in all this information at the same time. No movie feels that way. No book feels that way. No cartoon feels that way. This movie, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, feels like that. It throws so much at you at the same time. Your brain can't even really process everything. It's just darting all over the place. Now look, a visually stunning movie does not a great movie make. A great visual spectacle doesn't mean it's a great movie. Across the Spiderverse, the further I get from it, and I do have the 4K, I of course bought the 4K, it is not as good as Into the Spider-Verse for me for a couple of reasons. I love what they do with all the characters. I love bringing in, you know, 2099 stuff, and I even love the stuff with the with the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider-Man. Like, I love all that stuff, but it's not a complete story. It ends. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. It ends. There's a part 3 coming, you know, and we don't get the resolution of the story. So because of that, for a few other reasons, like, it goes on a little too long. I would rather have just had one great new movie. I don't love the way everything kind of goes. Like, you liked 1, here's 2 more we're working on for you. That's not really where I'm at these days. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I loved the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, even though it bore very little resemblance to the comics. Now people are going to go, but some of the comics, I'm talking about the original comics from decades ago, not the stuff that was written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. Which itself was a lot more serious and sincere and dark and dramatic than what we saw in these movies. James Gunn is doing something very specific. Here's what I think about James Gunn. And I like James Gunn. He's so punk rock. He has somehow convinced these studios to give him the keys to the car. and he's just doing wheelies in the front yard, and they don't even realize that he's kind of subverting everything that they've worked for. I hated Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It made me feel so bad. Now, listen, part of that, it's digital animal violence, but it's got a lot of animal violence in it. We watched it as a family with my daughter, who cried a lot in the movie. And that's the same experience I had with The Force Awakens all those years ago, is that they did something in that movie, which, if you've seen my video about Star Wars, I think I talked about that. I don't like seeing how that sadness, and also I think it's a crutch. What's the old screenwriting trick? You want to turn somebody against the enemy, you kill the dog. You have the bad guy kill the dog. I don't love Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It is grim. It is dark. They bicker through the entire movie. And people go, but they always bickered. Not like this. This feels more aggressive. And where it leaves the movie is it just feels such a sad, down place. Then I heard an interview with James Gunn on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. And he talked about how until like a year or two ago, he never felt loved. He didn't feel like he was deserving of love, and he hated himself. And I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that already, because it's all in his movies. His movies are full of self-loathing. And I know some people are like, I don't get that at all. I'm glad you don't. I do. I feel like a lot of his tone, it's in the Suicide Squad, it's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He is not a happy man. Now, we'll see what happens moving forward. But I love Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I like Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I will never watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 again. The Little Mermaid. Boy, what a brave person I was to buy a ticket to see this movie, because I knew that when I bought a ticket, I was making a statement. See, that's kind of crazy. That's crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'll go check this movie out and see what it is. And like, oh, you're like you're making a political statement or something by going to see a movie. No, I just want to see how they do it. Just want to see if they can pull it off. They kind of do. The Little Mermaid, they kind of pull it off. I think the actress that plays Ariel is fantastic. I think the music is great. I think that Melissa McCarthy gives us I don't traditionally like Melissa McCarthy, because a lot of her movies, like, it's just not for me. The stuff she's doing in Ghostbusters, the stuff she's doing in, what's the movie she did with Sandra Bullock? I can't remember the name of it. The Heat, is that the name of it? It just doesn't work for me. Like, I love her on Saturday Night Live. And I really like her in The Little Mermaid. She's got a gear I didn't know she had. It's like another thing that I haven't seen from her before. I'm like, oh, she can sing. Really cool. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie's just not very good. I think I gave it like a 3. I don't rate movies because I think that's arbitrary. I don't know how you can assign a numerical rating to something, but I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 or something like that, which is kind of half-hearted. I do that for you guys, because you're like, yeah, okay, I heard what you had to say, but what did you think about it? How do you rate it? I'm like, it's in the middle of the road. Little Mermaid, honestly, I'll probably never watch it again either. I think I said at the time of the video review that I did that I was looking forward to watching it, like buying it and watching it again at home, because I don't love the theater experience. I had a bad theater experience for The Little Mermaid, but I have not done that. And the thought of revisiting it now, just not interested. And probably a lot of that's flavored by my thoughts on Disney. Disney these days has just almost completely left me behind. Case in point, AntMan and the Wasp, Quantumania. Ooh, this is bad. I like the idea. It's got a little bit of, the Shrinking Man, the Incredible Shrinking Man. It's got a little bit, that's rooted in the Ant-Man character to begin with, but it's the whole idea of the microverse. Micronauts, any Micronauts fans out there? I know my people are out there. It just isn't interesting to me. I just don't care. And like Jonathan Majors now, the whole thing with him, they're like, well, we can't use Jonathan Majors as Kang now. I'm like, well, good. Because that wasn't compelling to begin with. You have the tapestry of the Marvel Universe. You have Doctor Doom. You have Magneto. You have Thanos they did. You have Galactus. And you're giving us Kang as the big phase villain. I don't care anymore. I'm not angry about it. I'm not typing on a keyboard. I just don't care. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I watched. It was a struggle to get to the end of it. Renfield. I didn't like Renfield either, but I love Nicolas Cage in it. He's the bright spot of the movie. I don't know what the goal of Renfield was. Now, part of it is like, I feel this is where my age is going to come through, because I'm not a millennial. Some people think I'm a millennial. I'm not. I'm older than that. I hail from the later 70s, you guys. And there's a tone, like the idea of like, oh, but what if Renfield was in therapy because of his complicated relationship with Dracula? That feels very Gen Z, very young millennial to me. And I just don't connect with that. I just don't think that that's interesting. I showed up to Renfield for Nicolas Cage. And he's great. He's having a blast in this movie. Unfortunately, he's not in it enough. And there's like Awkwafina and the Little Mermaid, bad idea. Awkwafina in Renfield, I don't really get it. And then they bring in Ben Schwartz, who I generally do like. I think he's a funny guy, and I love his character on Parks and Recreation. The worst. I love that guy. I love that character. I love that actor. He has really nothing to do. This movie feels like they had 3 different ideas for movies, and they just put them all together in the end, and they were like, just make it. Just take these 3 separate ideas and put them in one and make it. It's so conflicted. It's so like scattered and inconsistent, and like sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's crazy violent. And I think I'm supposed to be shocked maybe by the crazy violence. I'm not. I'm just like, everything here I've seen before. You've given, like, so there's a scene where like somebody gets beaten with their own limb. Well, that's in Deadly Prey that David A. Pryor did way back in the 1980s. Like, there's nothing new here, but it's new for some people. So maybe that's why I'm like, well, maybe it's just not for me. I'm too old for it. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. You know, I loved Bumblebee. Bumblebee took everything I loved about the Transformers. It combined that Generation 1 kind of cool that they've still not really been able to capture, and married it to a really human, heartfelt storyline. Because that's the thing, you know, we of the 80s know that, you know, we grew up with the Transformers. They're the main characters. It's not like Spike isn't the main character. The Transformers are the main character. It's their story, and they can't really do that in a modern. Or maybe they could, they just haven't. And so I don't know. The hype going into this movie. I interviewed Don Murphy, the producer of the Transformers, about a different project. I get to interview him about his movie. He directed a horror movie back for his thesis, his senior college thesis. He directed a horror movie that MVD released, and I'll reference you to that review right here. But I got to talk to him about other things, right? Like Natural Born Killers and like Transformers, and his love, because he's a huge comic book fan. And he was like, I think you're really going to love the next one. They're really trying to tap into what the fans love. Like, I just don't feel anything. But I still, when I watch Generation 1 Transformers cartoons, whatever it is that I still love about that, it's still there. Like, it didn't die. I still feel that way. And I got it from Bumblebee a little bit. It wasn't like super served, but I got it from Bumblebee. But I've never gotten it from these movies. And there's a tease at the end of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Like, what if this happens? I don't care. I'm kind of tired of having my childhood co-opted, sold back to me worse than it was. Like, just leave it alone. Just leave this. If you can't capture what makes this stuff so cool, just leave it alone. Because it never... And again, it's probably not all for me. You know, these Transformers, these Michael Bay produced Transformers movies have made bazillions of dollars. They've sold a butt ton of toys, and that's why they exist, and that's why what I loved in the 80s exists. It was to sell toys. But the catch was the people that were writing those stories, both in the comics and for the cartoon, they were steeped in 50s and 60s science fiction. They were steeped in the classics, and they were telling these genre stories through Transformers, and that experience, that love comes through. These new creators seem to hate classic stuff. There's not in this movie, I think it was in one of the Mark Wahlberg ones. There's like a dig on John Wayne, as if we can't like John Wayne movies and the Transformers at the same time. That's the flaw. It's thinking that these are two different things and not the same thing. So I didn't like Rise of the Beasts either. The Flash. Now there's a lengthy, it's not super long. There's a review right now for The Flash at CerealAtMidnite.com. This is my most hated movie of the year. I want that time of my life back. I hated it so much. It does nothing right. Now listen, if you're like, well, you don't like IP stuff anyway, but keep in mind, I love The Flash. I grew up with the Super Friends. I grew up reading The Flash. I've read, I don't know, hundreds of issues of The Flash. I love Barry Allen. I love Wally West. I love Bart. Like, I love all these characters. I love when these movies can kind of capture the thing that I connect with in the characters. But DC movies now, I think the last DC movie that really felt respectful to any sort of source material was probably Nolan's trilogy, and I don't even think he cares much about the source material. I hated The Flash. Here's the thing. It's adapted from a storyline, the Flashpoint storyline, which ran in comics for a few months. It was like 4 months, I think it was, but it was like a bunch of comics. I've read the whole event. I read the entire Flashpoint event. The idea is Flash changes time, like he creates an alternate reality where Bruce Wayne's dead, but Thomas Wayne, his dad, survived, and he became Batman, where Superman was captured basically by the government and kept in like a silo underground so that the sun could not power him. There's all this great stuff. And I assume that this material was given to the filmmakers and the writers. None of it's on screen. And they've turned this character who is noble, like Barry Allen's the Flash, or any Flash, noble, heroic, and just turn him into the most annoying, simpering, just irritating character that just made me want to turn it off. It's cool that we have Michael Keaton's Batman back again, though he's just playing his greatest hits. Hey, you remember Batman? You remember Michael Keaton's Batman? He was like, come on, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Actually, I messed that line up. I know I messed that line up. Well, let's have him do it again. It's just playing the hits. Instead of writing new hits, they're just playing the hits we already know. Hoping that we'll go, oh, I love this in 1989. I love this. For me, that's not how it works. I already got the thing from 1989. I don't need it again. I need you to give me something new. And that's the problem I have with a lot of movies now. Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. My joke is, hey, remember the Ghostbusters? They're cool, and they're back. They haven't had a good time since you last saw them, but they're back. I don't need it. Doesn't do anything for me. Asteroid City. Let's take a break from like Samuel Jackson delivery. Asteroid City. Let's take a break from IPs and franchise stuff and talk about a Wes Anderson movie, because I love Wes Anderson. I don't always love everything he does, but his movies are... They've got his fingerprints all over them. And I don't necessarily think that he cares. I think this was my review for Asteroid City. He doesn't care if you like Asteroid City or not. He made it for him. It's cool that he does. I guess he makes them cheap enough that the studio's like, whatever, man. Just do what you do. People check it out. Like, what a cool place to have. What an opportunity to have at a studio, or to get distribution for a movie that doesn't have a ton of commercial appeal. And they're just like, just go ahead. Just do what you do. Tom Hanks, really cool performance from him like we've never seen before. Scarlett Johansson's good in the movie. The premise, if you haven't seen Asteroid City, it's like, what if all these interesting characters converged in the desert, in, like mid-century deserts, and there was an alien encounter. What would that be like? Without the alien encounter, I'm already interested, because I'm like, we got all these cool, interesting characters, these quirky characters, bouncing off each other, and then there's an alien in the mix too. I just thought it was cool. And there's but again, it's super uncommercial. It's amazing these movies get made in the first place. And at this point, that's kind of what I love about Wes Anderson's movies, is he's making them for him, and he doesn't care if you like them or not. And I think that's really cool. I got to interview the director of Pig, that Nicolas Cage movie Pig. I interviewed the director when that movie came out. And I told him, one of the things that I love about Pig is that it's not for everybody. There's so much stuff on this list here that was made for everybody. When you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing very few people, because it feels homogenized. It feels kind of watered down. What I love about auteur cinema, and goodness knows we're losing auteurs left and right to the franchise machine, is that it still bears the fingerprints of its creator. It does not feel like a movie by a committee. When we can get that, it's a miracle. Asteroid City felt like that for me. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny did not feel like that for me. However, it did still have a little bit of the magic that I wanted. It's on fumes. It's a distant echo of what I love about Indiana Jones. I don't think Somebody was like, "You were too soft on this movie." I was like, "I don't think the movie should have been made. I thought that it was too long. I thought that the MacGuffin didn't make sense. Like, I was not too easy on that movie. But at the same time, we don't have movies with 80-year-old actors in them very often, so that is good. We live in a society that throws older people away. Actresses, right? You get over 40, you're done. You got to find ways to innovate your career, because only a few people will have the career that Sandra Bullock or Julia Roberts or Helen Mirren have had. It's cool to see a movie with older actors in it. It's clear, like, Harrison Ford can't run around like he could in 1981. He shouldn't really be asked to. It's just not great. But there are things that I do connect with about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny where I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Not great, not bad. It's okay. It's worth a watch. You know, all these Movies, if you're like, well, Heath didn't like it, so I shouldn't check it out. Always make up your own mind. I would never encourage you to take my word over checking something out for yourself. Always check something out for yourself. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is a funny title because it's always going to be Dead Reckoning Part 1, and now we know there's no Dead Reckoning Part 2 coming. It's going to be called something else. Maybe they'll retcon it at some point like they did with Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which of course was never the title. I watched it. It's fine. I know people lost their mind over this movie. This is one of those movies that they said was going to save summer. First of all, stop expecting any single movie to save summer. Tom Cruise can't save summer, nor should he try. I don't know, man. I love these movies, but I love Mission Impossible. I'm of the age we grew up with Mission Impossible on the air in reruns. So I'm used to, and the 80s revival series, by the way. Mission Impossible was so successful as a television series in the 60s, they brought it back in the 1980s. And I liked that too. So by the time the movies come along with Brian De Palma in, 96, I think it was, I already loved Mission Impossible. So that movie tapped into a lot of what I love about Mission Impossible, which is just a smart spy story with big stakes. It's got the disguises, it's got the sneaking around, it's got the turns and the traitor stuff. I liked a lot of that stuff. The fact that it's become a franchise, I don't really understand. And we try to go back and watch some of like the John Woo in Mission Impossible 2. It's not good. It's visual. It's got doves and pigeons. It's got some slow motion, like a 360 kick. It's not good. These movies, I don't know. They draw people in based on spectacle. I'm losing my interest in spectacle. I need a story. I need something to care about. And so, I mean, I liked it. I watched it. I liked it. I thought the train scene at the end of the movie was really cool. But it's just an action scene. You go back and you, like, let's break it down, okay? And I'm not going to, there's no spoilers here. This is all spoiler free. But Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a series of action set pieces with very little plot. There's almost no story. AI is the bad guy. We got to stop that AI from doing that thing almost 3 hours. There's not much there. It's just not enough for me anymore. And I know that there's a lot of people out there, probably even people watching this, that is what you want. You work hard, you come home, you just want to watch a spectacle, right? It's not really what I'm super into these days. I do like spectacle from time to time. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is just okay for me. Haunted Mansion, I really liked. You didn't think that was coming. I swerved you. There's a review for this. How did I review this? I think I reviewed it. I wrote a review for this at CerealAtMidnite.com, and it's on Letterboxd, and it's on the critics section, critics reviews on IMDb. I really liked Haunted Mansion. Not necessarily because it's so great. It's not. But I love the attraction at Disney, and it's, if you know the Haunted Mansion, like for all these decades, it's never really had a story. It's a ride. They have finally constructed a story for the Haunted Mansion that makes sense, that includes all the characters that are in the ride. Leota, done. Hatbox Ghost, got old Hattie, done. Master Gracie, done. Like, it all makes sense. It's all got this really cool story. And I love the Hatbox Ghost is kind of the ultimate villain now. And now they've added him to the Magic Kingdom in Orlando. They've added the Hatbox Ghost now, just like a few weeks ago as I recorded this video. That's great. I don't know. I love what they've been able to do. It's got that creepy atmosphere. It's got a lot of nods to the ride. I don't love the Eddie Murphy movie because I know a lot of people go, well, it's not as good as the Eddie Murphy movie. Maybe wait 20 years and see how you feel then. Because when did the Eddie Murphy movie come out? It's been a while. We've lived with it for a long time. That movie we didn't love it back. I'll tell you, those of us who were watching and reviewing movies back then, we didn't love the Eddie Murphy movie either. Every movie eventually becomes accepted. It just lives long enough to become part of the scenery, and everything finds its audience eventually. But I don't love the Eddie Murphy version of the movie. I don't know that I love this version of the movie, but I like it a lot, and it makes me happy. And that's enough, sometimes that's enough. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Now listen, I've talked a lot about IP stuff. I've talked a lot about the soullessness that a lot of these corporations have when it comes to trying to capture the spirit of 80s properties. I think the missing factor here, the X factor, the je ne sais quoi, I think the factor is Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, because they're like, I guess they're a little younger than me, but they have steeped this, like it feels relevant for now. It's also steeped in the early 90s hip hop scene. It just feels right. It feels like New York. It's got that vibe. Clearly visually influenced by the Spiderverse movies. I don't think there's any debate about that. I just thought it was fun. And it's a movie that has bad guys in it who, okay, this is a very, very light spoiler. So if you haven't seen Mutant Mayhem, and you don't want to know anything about it, skip ahead like 10 seconds. It's got bad guys in the movie that decide they don't want to be bad guys anymore. That's really cool. Like I can't recall ever seeing that before. So visually cool, cool story, cool. Like the voice cast, they're young, they're all teenagers. They sound like teenagers because they are teenagers. What a concept! When you think about the roots of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which come with me for just a second, it was a parody of Daredevil. As Eastman and Laird conceived the Ninja Turtles before the animated series, it was a comic book satirizing Frank Miller's Daredevil. So like all the ninja stuff, all those Frank Miller tropes, that's where the Ninja Turtles come from. And to see what they've evolved into all these years later and all the different interpretations, it's really cool. And I really like this interpretation, the Mutant Mayhem interpretation. The Lost Voyage of the Demeter. I had high expectations for this. People that I know, trust, and even love told me that they love the movie. I love Dracula. I love Universal horror. I love Gothic films, Gothic stories, Gothic books, Gothic literature. It just didn't work for me. I just didn't think that it had no momentum. It had no flow. It's okay. So it's a movie with Dracula on a ship, right? Dracula gets started doing stuff 45 minutes in. What? What's the first 45 minutes? Just a lot of stuff setting up characters that we're going to be watching get kicked off or bumped off over the course of the movie. I don't know. I just felt like it was lethargic and I did not care about the characters. When you watch a Friday the 13th movie, it's got this cast and they're all going to die. You're going to have a final girl and then everybody else is meat, right? You still kind of like hanging out with those characters. I didn't care about hanging out with any of these characters on the ship. And then they want to set it up. I feel like they want to set this up for like a franchise. I'm like, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're good. It just didn't work for me. Five Nights at Freddy's also did not work for me. I was excited about it because I love how do you mess that up, right? Those of us who, 80s and 90s kids, right? Chuck E. Cheese, Showbiz Pizza. I date back to Showbiz Pizza. Billy Bob, one of the freakiest dudes ever. And then what was the name of the piano player? It was like Fats something. Minnesota Fats? That's not his name. Terrifying to a very small child because they were massive. In my child memory, those animatronics were like 15 feet tall. I just didn't think Five Nights at Freddy's was interesting. I thought, what I want from a Five Nights movie. Now, I gather it's true to the mythology of the games. Okay, I just didn't think it was a very compelling movie. I thought it felt like a $500,000 movie, but it's actually not. Was it like a $20 million movie, or maybe it was more than that? And it has made all of the money. So we're going to have a Five Nights at Freddy's cinematic universe. I'm probably done. I'm tapping out. I don't think I'm going to watch any more of these. It just didn't do anything for me. Lillard's in it. Matthew Lillard. I like him. He got to do some stuff. Okay. Fool's Paradise. This is a weird little indie from Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I feel like he cashed in all of his chips to make this movie, because it feels real personal and it feels like it's for him. So the premise, he doesn't speak. He's like a silent performer. We don't, well, okay, I'm not going to say anything else about that. He doesn't, it's a Charlie Chaplin kind of thing. He said he studied Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton to do this. It's like an idiot in Hollywood. It's kind of what it is. It's like he is because he doesn't speak, all of these figures around him impose their will upon him. And it is very much a satire of the Hollywood system. It's a satire of like the arrogant, self-absorbed actor. Adrian Brody represents like the Hollywood bad boy. It's a joke about it. Like he watches movies, he's like sensory deprives himself, and he's just like, I just feel like if there's a good performance, I can absorb the performance. It's hilarious. It's so like on point. But the movie, it's not a great movie. It doesn't necessarily work, but what I love about it is it does feel, again, it's like the Wes Anderson thing. It just feels so personal. Like this feels like a Charlie Day movie, and Glenn Howerton's in it, and his wife is in it, and Waitress, if you like, is Always Sunny, she's in there. Artemis is in it. There's a lot of people that we know from It's Always Sunny, just not in that kind of a role. It's very sweet and sincere, which is not necessarily something you associate with Charlie Day, but I love it. Of all the stuff that he's done, I think this is my favorite thing, because I'm like, oh, he is... It really, like, I feel like in years to come, people are going to find this movie like they find, like we find everything now. And they're going to go, whoa, this movie is crazy. It is on point with the arrogance and the greed. And there's, like, Malkovich is in this movie. Malkovich is in this movie. What he is in this movie is crazy. All right, here we go. Barbie. Let's talk about Barbie. We're going to do Barbie, Oppenheimer, 1-2 punch. We're going to do Barbenheimer, guys. Barbie. I liked it. I think that's, like, I see the messages. I agree with some of the messages. It's like the Little Mermaid, right? It's so weird that just by watching something, you've made a statement to somebody who's, like, so fragile that they can't even handle you seeing something to see how you feel about it. It's so threatening. They don't even want you to see it. I can't speak to that. I thought Barbie had a lot of messages that I think are applicable to right now. I think it's important. I think that it connected with all the right people. The people that don't want to see those messages, they didn't watch it anyway. They weren't going to watch it. Here's the thing. I should also say visually impressive, really funny. Death! You guys know what I'm talking about. Death! It is so message heavy. If you take out the message, nothing else, it all collapses. It only exists as a delivery system for a message. And I don't know if it's just the way I'm wired, the super fundamentalist upbringing that I had. I reject, like, there's something about that I don't like. I'm like, no, you create a cool thing first and then you put a message in it. The message can't be the whole thing. It's got to be a part of the thing, but not the whole thing. And I know there are going to be people out there who disagree with me. Go like, the message was part of the thing. It was wonderful. Hey, what are you talking about? It was magical cinema. It's enough. I liked it. I just feel like the message was a little consuming of everything else. You know what I mean? It's cool to see Michael Cera. He gives a good performance. I mean, Margot Robbie's like the best. She's the best. She is the star of now. When I was growing up, Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, like, these were our stars. Margot Robbie, on another level. She's incredible. And she really carries so much in this movie. It is brave, people are like, oh, it's such a brave performance. To be an actor her age, to appear without makeup, as she does in the movie. Like, there's just things here. It's great. But There's just something, it feels, it's there's something about it. I'm just like, it feels a little, and it's probably me. It's probably being so oppositional to authority and messages and like, here's what you should think. I don't know, but it is like, how in the world did this movie get made when it has such a critical perspective, a justified critical perspective on corporate America and on the people that run these corporations? So Will Ferrell in this movie is David Zaslav. He is Bob Iger. He is these people. There's no pretending necessary here. He plays those people. He's making fun of every executive who knows nothing about the creation of things, who's super fragile, who can't handle criticism. He is that. And then someone from Mattel read this screenplay with that character taking down Mattel and said, this is great. We got to make this movie. And I know they didn't get it because now they're talking about the Mattel Cinematic Universe, where we're going to connect Barbie with, I don't know, whatever they like, the other things like the Rubik's Cube or something. Like we're going to have, is Silly Putty Mattel? I don't even know. Like we're going to have it. No, you missed the whole point. But that's what corporate America, it's not just corporate America, corporations around the world. That's what they do. I was worried that Greta Gerwig would then get sucked into the IP machine. It seems like that's exactly what's happened. Because then she tapped now to do like a Narnia reboot. I don't know. Like I'm clearly still conflicted about Barbie because I still have these different juxtaposed positions. It's the same movie, but I have like I'm arguing with myself about it. So I guess I don't know yet. Probably need to revisit it again. Oppenheimer. Let's talk about Oppenheimer. All right, guys. This is the movie. It's sitting at close to $1 billion. The 4K, physical media sold like 100,000 copies is what I'm hearing. Unprecedented level of physical media sales. When I talked about it on social media, people were like, I was like, how? Why are the people that are going into a store like a Best Buy or a Target or Walmart to buy Oppenheimer, why are they not buying anything else while they're there? And somebody was like, well, not just one person. People go, because it's a great movie and it's a great release. I don't think it's a great movie. And I'm sorry, because I know there's a lot of people that trust what I say, and when I don't like something, it takes a little bit away from them. Like it stings when I don't like something. Christopher Nolan makes movies that are very accomplished. They have great performances in them. They have a visual style, but I don't connect with them. The humanity that I seek from those kinds of movies isn't present. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about this because I'm like, why didn't I like Oppenheimer? I recognize Oppenheimer is good. I recognize that it's very important. Some critics said it's the most important movie of the last 100 years. I'm sorry? No pressure. So it's more important than Schindler's List? I mean, how do you say that? You know, I don't, that feels like hyperbole to me. I've been wrestling with why I had this reaction to it. First of all, the movie's shot in almost a montage style. Some scenes are 5 seconds. Like full scenes, like 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. It's the thing that Baz Luhrmann did with Elvis. It's just like boom, 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 boom. We're here, now we're over here, now we're down here, now we're up here. Doesn't work for me. I've been thinking about it. Here's what I've decided. I have an emotional brain. The way that I'm able to talk to you guys, people go like, do you have notes? No, I have no notes. I have a list of movies right here to my left of what I saw. And it's probably not even everything because I probably forgot some. I don't have notes. I just go on feeling, on passion. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, letting my passion talk. I'm just flying, you know what I mean? Christopher Nolan's not like that. Christopher Nolan is mathematical. And that's why he likes like Tenet. See, I've called Tenet as a joke so many times in my brain now. It's Tenet. Have you seen Tenet? Delightful experiment. You know, the experiments of like, well, it's a palindrome of a film. Like he has a mathematical brain. I do not. I struggle with mathematical stuff. I struggle with that engineering a film kind of a thing. What I connect with is humanity and emotion and just faults, honestly. Like I need to, like, I can't really connect with somebody unless I see their flaws too. Of course, the movie has flaws, and the characters in the movie have flaws. But I heard David Krumholtz talking about his time on this movie and how hard Nolan was to work for, how he directs, no praise, no, that was a great take, none of that. And in one take, he was like, "Was that good for you?" David Krumholtz was like, "Was that good for you?" And he was like, "Are you fishing for a compliment?" And I think that's his version of a joke. I'm not wired like that. That sounds horrible to me. I would have left after the first day. I've been like, "Listen, I know you're like a genius. I know that you are the savior of cinema," right? There's another one, like he's the Stanley Kubrick of our time, which, what does that mean? I don't connect with it. And I don't really connect, like Interstellar, like, I'm trying, Tenet, I'm trying. Dark Knight movies, I like the first one because it's the most commercial of those movies. The Dark Knight, or like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight is great because of Heath Ledger. That's why that movie is great. Let's be clear. The Dark Knight is great because of Heath Ledger. The Two-Face stuff does not belong in that movie. There's too much movie there. Needed another draft. Anyway, the third of those movies is not good. The Prestige. Try. I like the book. I like the source material. Memento is probably my favorite Christopher Nolan book. Christopher Nolan movie. Insomnia is adapted. That's his version of somebody else's movie. That movie already exists. So I don't know. I'm struggling. And that doesn't mean I think it's bad. But whatever it is that people are connecting with when they go, "This is great," I wonder, do they really think it's great, or are they just connecting with the zeitgeist? All these people that love Barbie and love Oppenheimer and did a Barbenheimer special feature. Was it the movies that they connected with, or was it the experience of the movies? Was it seeing those movies in a day or over a weekend and the thrill of being in a theater with hundreds of other people? Because that's the thing that I think we've lost in the home media era. When things go to streaming and when we're, buying our physical media, whatever, we are losing that collective cinematic experience. And I think that what we're seeing, not for sure, I'm not saying, I suspect the success of these movies and the positive word of mouth comes from the joy of people experiencing something together and enjoying it. I think that's what it is. That communal experience that has become so foreign to us that when we do have it, we're like, "Oh, this is amazing." We could have that all the time. Fortunately, we don't. Dungeons and Dragons, we're almost done. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, biggest surprise of the year. This is the movie that gave me the feeling that Indiana Jones should have given me and used to give me. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves is a delight of a movie. It is special effects, it's an IP, it's whatever, it's a tentpole. But our expectations for this movie were so low because we've had we've had at least three, right? We had the Dungeons and Dragons movie from, was it 2000, 2001? I saw that in theaters. Tried to convince myself I liked it. We had the TV movie. We've had Dungeons and Dragons. It was nothing like this. This movie was so fun. It was funny. It was exciting. It has great action scenes. It has characters that I'm interested in. Most of the characters have a full, complete story arc. It's just brilliantly done. And you know what? I don't want any more. I'm fine with just the one. And I know that they're probably going to do like 5 more. I don't need sequels. I don't need a franchise. Just give me one cool thing. Let me enjoy it. I'm trying to think of some great classic movies that there's just one of. I don't need a Last Starfighter sequel. I don't need another Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Just give me one that I can love and that can age gracefully over time without me going, "Yeah, but then there's Gremlins 2, which I really like Gremlins 2 because that's Joe Dante taking on the corporate machine. But you know what I mean, like diminished returns, right? I love Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, but I can't give my top spot. And I said I wasn't ranking these, but I wanted to say my favorite for last. I can't give my favorite movie to an IP tentpole franchise film. I just can't do it. By the way, this year, hopefully everybody saw my interview with Michael Whitwer, the co-author of the Dungeons and Dragons Lore and Legends book that came out this year, a sequel to Art and Arcana. This has been a great year for Dungeons and Dragons. A great year for fantasy fans. And we're going to talk more about that when I do a physical media, when I talk about my favorite physical media releases of this year, which will be hitting this channel very soon. My favorite movie of the year, 65. And as some people are going to be like, bro, just turn the video off. 65 is, and I'm going to be very careful how I talk about this. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know what it's about, please do not watch a trailer. Just watch the movie. It's Adam Driver, who's an incredible actor. And it's a science fiction story where he is hauling a group of people who are in cryosleep to another location. Ship goes down. Looks like everybody's dead. Or are they? And that's the movie. And it's a thriller. It's a horror movie. It's a sci-fi horror movie with a lot of action. To say more would be criminal. But what I really connected with this movie because it's done by the people that came up with the story for A Quiet Place, which is kind of the same thing. It's a small movie with a huge set of circumstances. You know, the idea of A Quiet Place is like, it's post-apocalyptic and there's all these aliens, these creatures that can hear you and hunt you and find you and kill you. That could be a huge story. They choose to focus on one family. That's what 65 is. It's this huge set of circumstances. One guy and someone else. And he has a relationship with his daughter in this movie that I related to. You know, I was thinking, so my daughter's a teenager, late teenager. And I'll say this about 65. So Adam Driver and there's a daughter, there's a girl in the movie, a teenage girl. And they literally don't speak the same language. And that's a metaphor for every dad's relationship with his daughter. Oh, I'm going to get myself choked up. Is that at some point you stop speaking the same language, but you still love each other. You just aren't communicating like you used to because it's just, that's what happens. That's life. And that's in this movie. And I related to it. So like when I finished this movie, I was just like it made me feel everything I want. It was emotional. It was exciting. It was scary. It was fun. It was funny. And it's like an hour and 32 minutes. Small, mid-budget movie. I think it's a $40 million movie. Maybe it was $50 million, something like that. They don't make a lot of mid-budget movies anymore. Here's a mid-budget movie. I don't think it was a huge box office success. I don't think it did well. I'm not hearing a whole lot of people talking about it, but it's my favorite thing this year. So check it out. Won't you? All right, guys, well, this was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but we had a lot to talk about. And it's always fun to break out the Review-Palooza review format because it gives me the opportunity to just talk to you guys. Again, no notes, no math, just what I feel, just going by feeling, you know? So I would love to know what you saw. But there's huge movies that aren't on this list yet. You know, there's things that I still need to see, like Killers of the Flower Moon, like Ferrari. Right? There's another Adam Driver movie. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out, and there's things that I missed throughout the year that I need to catch up on. There's just a lot of stuff. So I'm not going to do a sequel or anything like that, but I will probably weigh in on those on Letterboxd. Do follow me over on Letterboxd. All the links are in the description of every single video. And I would love to talk about movies. You notice this video was not about formats. It's not about Blu-ray or 4K or streaming or whatever. It's just about movies. And I would love to keep talking about movies with you because that is my passion. Film and television are my passion. I just love stories. We had some good ones this year. Some of them missed the mark, but we had some great ones. Those are the ones that connected with me. Maybe some of them that didn't connect with me connected with you. And I think that's great. And I'd love to hear about it. Keep it classy. Keep it, no confrontation. None of that. I can't believe you didn't like. Somebody asked me last year, like, how could Top Gun Maverick not be my favorite movie of the year? And I was like, do you know me? Top Gun Maverick is the movie that killed all the other movies. It's the $300 million IP sequel that killed the $30 million interesting personal movie. That's why, right? Yeah, that's just who I am. But we'll be nice to each other, and we'll continue the conversation in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Take care. Till next time, I will catch you later.